Like many other countries in the world, Japan really loves its events and festivals. And as a result, you really do see anime and doujin events happening all year round as well. Be it something like Comic Cat or Anime Japan, Comic One, Comitia, Pony Cat, Superhero in Time, Wonder Fair, Sunshine Creation. The list really goes on. And that's the reason why, even now, for those of you people who keep more in the loop with stuff like this, you may have noticed that I have not covered every event that has happened in the period so far. And the reason for that is simply because if I were to go for every single event, I would probably be out almost every week or two, and it would probably burn me out so much trying to do both that and this, and also streaming once in a while, that trying to go to every single one of them every single time is not really possible. So some I'll probably cover next year as well. And this was the case during Golden Week as well. I feel like the entire week was a microcosm for all of this, due to the fact that during that individual single week, there were not only events going on within Tokyo, but there were events going on all across the rest of Japan as well for both anime and doujin stuff. And on top of that, within Tokyo itself, there were 4 that went on during this period, although I only managed to go to 3 of them since I kind of lost track due to the sheer number of events that were going on. And so, the event I want to share with you guys today is Comitia, the first event that I went to out of the 3 that I went to during Golden Week. The last video we talked about Reitaisai, and Comic One was the other event that happened on that same day. And we'll be talking about Comitia, which happened 2 days before. The more I thought about it, the more events I went to. It's like I was trying to decide how best to film all of this, and I realized that if I tried to show you guys everything, every event is just gonna look like. So after thinking for quite a bit, I'm thinking that perhaps the best way for me to show these events would be for me to talk about and show the unique points that each of these events have, and then go on to show you maybe some of the stuff that you could find there due to the fact that because these are doujin events or indie events, the kind of stuff you can find can vary a lot between the different events as well as the different IPs which are being involved in the events. And the reason why Comitia is unique is due to the fact that unlike most other events where the type of content you can find is a Mad Max of whoever brings whatever they want, with Comitia there is a specific restriction of the stuff that you bring in must be an original work instead. And what I mean by this is that unlike most other events where you can make a parody book, it doesn't matter if it's safe for work or not safe for work, it can just be a normal comedy book. For Comitia, you kind of have to bring your own original work instead. It doesn't matter whether it's your DeviantArt OC or even just a book on trains or the kind of vending machines that exist within Japan. If it's something that is originally made by you in terms of the content and doesn't borrow off an IP that's already existing, it kind of can be registered for this event. So as a result, when it comes to Comitia, you really do see a huge variety of stuff on display, be it somebody drawing their OC anime waifu or husbando to sell, or just plain normal art that can be used as a decor, maybe some accessories, maybe just books on traveling or foodie guidebooks as well. And you also have this guy here who made his own OC kaiju figure. The variety is truly impressive, although compared to other events, for some reason, weirdly enough, Comitia kind of had this thing going on where the spacing between the individual circles, which are what they call the doujin groups, happens to be very uneven. Like you have some areas where there's like just this huge amount of space between the circles, and then sometimes it's like between the 2 sides of the tables you just have a very narrow hallway which can barely fit 2 people. Like I'm not sure why it's like that, but for some reason a large part of the event was like this, so traveling around between the circles can be quite a tenuous task at times. And one very interesting thing about this event, which arguably might be the most interesting thing about it since it doesn't really happen at most of the other events I've been to before, even at Anime Japan, is the fact that for this event they do have a segment set aside for official manga publishing companies to set up a booth, not so much to sell their stuff, but for doujin artists who want to try to get more advice on how they can improve their works or to hopefully get serialized. You can go there, go to the publishing company which you want to have look over your work, queue up, and then bring your work and show it to them, and then they will talk you through what they think about it and how you can improve and so on and so forth, which doesn't really apply to a scrub like me who can't really draw even a stickman properly. But for artists who hope to get picked up by a publishing company someday, it's actually a very good opportunity for them to both brush up on their skills based off the advice that they can be given, as well as to hopefully get their work noticed by these companies as well. So even though we're talking about the original content doujin event first, I'm sure most people are probably more interested still in the more anime related stuff. And so, we are gonna talk about it at the later part of this video. Ha ha ha! You're gonna have to watch more of this, don't you? Don't check the chapters. Although if the chapters don't work for you, I'll add in the time code to that segment below here. You can click on that to go straight to the more anime related content, although I do recommend looking at through this segment of it as well, because it really gives you perspective as to what a actual like original content Doujin event actually entails overall. So when it comes to the amount of stuff, it's like, I think this is about 10,000 yen worth of stuff, I think. Somewhere around there. I need to check. Actually, probably more than that due to the fact that some stuff is very small but very costly as well. So, the first thing we'll talk about, I guess this would be a good one to start on, is this necklace that I bought. Do wear it to work sometimes, it kind of works very well. It looks like a normal feather, but the thing is, this thing is actually made of clay instead. Although the interesting thing is that even though this is made of clay, it is still made with a specific bird's feathers as the model in mind, and when you purchase it, it actually comes with a plastic cover that has the image of the bird and what the bird is supposed to be on it. And for the other one I have as well, it's kind of the same, where you have the pin that you would put into your hat or onto a piece of clothing that can poke through it with the name of the bird as well, which was kind of interesting, although it was a tad expensive. I think they were a few thousand yen each. I believe you can find stuff like this made in other countries as well. It probably shouldn't be too difficult, although it's kind of interesting to see them setting up stores in this kind of events as well. Then also from another circle which seems to just enjoy finding all the unique foods and stuff around Tokyo itself, you kind of have this book which is I guess you can kind of read it in English. Temiyage means like a souvenir that you can give to someone. So this is a book of the 100 souvenirs dedicated to a favorite. Oshi ni sasageru. This is more like for the person you sim for. So Belle Delphine, whoever it is. This is a book for the 100 souvenirs dedicated to your simpy instead, to put it simply, since otherwise the name wouldn't make sense. But yeah, so it's a book with a lot of different food-related, there we go, food-related souvenirs that you can purchase across all of Tokyo for people that you want to give it to. And with this, they even gave a map which was brought specifically for the event, so you can see all the different districts within Tokyo and where each of these individual stores can be found. You can see that in Western Tokyo, there's really nothing there because no one ever goes there anyway. Yeah, everything stops around here, which is Shinjuku, and then it goes east towards and another place that no one ever goes to. So that said, all of this is not specifically targeted at tourists, funnily enough. It's more targeted at people, even those who reside in Tokyo, who may not know of all of these different food places, because these are all really just people who are really interested in food and snacks, going around the other parts of Japan as well, looking for this kind of things. Then aside from that, I bought another book from them as well. This one also has text in English. Not very applicable to me, but a restaurant where you can This looks wrong. Yeah, okay, yeah. This I just realized the English on this is wrong. So it says here, a restaurant where followers can take 100,000 people, which is not what the Japanese says at all. It actually says a store where you can take someone who has 100,000 subscribers or followers. Yeah, I don't know, 100,000 seems like quite a far away number. Not really gonna apply to me for the next 50,000 years, I would feel like, but it would still be an interesting book you can use if you want to bring someone somewhere interesting to eat in general, such as this, which is the American Clubhouse, which might sound like a weird thing to have, but you have to remember that these books aren't specifically meant for tourists, but for locals as well. So it gives you not only good Japanese restaurants to eat at, but interesting foreign cuisine places that you can find within Tokyo as well. And that's what I might find to be more interesting about this book. Maybe due to the fact that as a foreigner living here, you kind of get more used to finding food that is Japanese in nature, but finding food that is foreign and good or authentic is something that's a bit rarer. So, oh, this actually looks pretty nice. There you go. Then aside from that, I do have something which is a little bit of a throwback to something I showed before on the Comicat video, although very briefly that time, which is this vending machine gourmet trip, which is a book produced by this circle, which goes around most of Japan, logging all the unique vending machines you can find across the country that are either phased out or super rare nowadays. Like one that I found quite interesting was the fact that they had a few quite interesting ones, such as like you have an udon place, a pizza place, more udon and ramen, all of which are very affordable. I think it says here that they're all like 350 yen, they're about even cheaper than that. Which compared to the fact that even a very mid-tier ramen in Japan can cost around 890 to 1,000 yen. It's very affordable. Then for something that goes in a bit more of an anime-ish direction, although not completely yet, is this couple cycling journey. I guess the couple part doesn't really apply to me as much, however the rest of this was actually pretty interesting. So the entire thing is basically just a manga doujin drawn by this circle, which gives you a brief explanation of if you want to go on a long distance cycling trip to another prefecture or another region, for example, what you should prepare, what you should look out for. Like it really just explains to you everything from like what chains you will want to use, what kind of clothing you would want to prepare, what kind of snacks or hydration methods you want to prep as well, and all this sort of things. And it also documents their own trip as well with the entire route that they took, which apparently passed by the shrine that turned up in Higurashi and stuff like this, which is kind of interesting. The fact that they actually documented the entire trip as well as stuff that you should look out for and prep for the trip. So if you're someone who's very interested in cycling, this might be something up your alley. I do believe they had another book which was about fine wine tasting as well, which not much of an alcohol person in general, but that sounded interesting, though maybe I'll buy that next time around. Wanted to just get this first, since this was kind of interesting looking. Like the cover as well is very different from your standard manga cover. The texture is quite nice to touch as well. And the information was actually quite useful for if I ever want to do something similar in the future, so I might go back and get more of their stuff. Then there was this. This I was given to for free, which is a Information 39. I mean, this is just the demo book of sorts where they basically give you a show of all the different light novels they have written. So they give you like, this is a light novel, then like how much romance, how much tension, how much mystery and all that. There are many people there who do sell light novels as well, and some of them actually give out stuff like this, which even shows you what the contents of some of the light novels are to some extent. And if you're the kind that just wants more stuff to read, especially if you're getting bored of the whole like every single book that comes out in the last 50 years has been an isekai thing, this would be quite a good change of pace, because everything here is, while some of it is fantasy, it's for the most part more drama rather than someone being sent into a fantasy world, so that might be a bit more up your alley as well. Then for the second last thing I have that is kind of not as weeb, perhaps that is kind of interesting as well, although shocker warning, I don't want it to be a jump scare for anyone since it's gonna be a picture of a monster, but I showed a clip earlier in this video as well of the circle with the figure outside of it. This was the book from that circle, and it's called The Monster That Would Kill Me. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the thing that kills me, my sleep paralysis demon, would be a little more human and Jake Paul looking, but I guess this is fine as well. What's interesting about this book though, however, is that the monster in this actually is quite terrifying, to be honest. But yeah, what's interesting about it is the fact that this entire book is basically a scientific so-called explanation of the kaijus that this person has dreamt up in their sleep paralysis, it seems like. So you kind of have like a few different monsters in here. It gives you like an explanation of like how they would come about, what they're actually like, what they would actually have been based off of if they had been mutated from another animal that already exists, how their limbs would kind of work as well, how they would grow up to be that way. Basically an OC kaiju and all of that, but it's kind of interesting because he actually doesn't just say like, oh yeah, that's my favorite kaiju, it's super cool and can smash buildings, things very easily. So instead of just childish statements about what the kaiju can do, he really does go into an in-depth explanation of, well, this is how its appendages are like, this is how its respiratory system is like, this is how it can live in different regions and climates and all that, which is very different from the norm in terms of how detailed it is, and they really seem to be quite passionate about the kaijus that they come up with as well. And so I bought this book. Unfortunately, the figure was not for sale, otherwise I could have this staring at me every night as I sleep. Did I say there was a second last one? Because that was wrong. Apparently there's still 2 more left. One of it is this, which is just honey candy. The thing with this event is that there are actually quite a few circles that go there selling foods and snacks and confectionaries as well. So all of this, I guess you could consider them just like small businesses selling their snacks. And this is one of them. We can give it a try now. So this is a lemon honey sweet that they made, it seems like. Because the store that I got this from is one that does a lot of honey related goods. So they also have liquid honey here if you ever need it for something or another. Anyway. Oh, that's really good. I can see why this cost as much as it did at the time. But yeah, there's quite a few different snacks there. Unfortunately, the rest are more perishable, so I couldn't bring them back. Then lastly, and this one is kind of interesting, although I don't think it's a very Japan-specific thing, which is this kind of paper pop-up castle building things. I guess pop-up art in general work quite well. And there's this circle that I was just selling a huge amount of it with all sorts of different designs, and it was kind of interesting to see. I actually bought one as well. I guess this goes up like this. It's a little dongle you can put up your ass. Like, I'm not sure how detailed you can see it, but there's even like little people up here. You can see the individual battlements and tips on the towers and all that. The little staircases and all that, all while there's an alternating light within. The way they explained it was that this was not purely hand carved. Like, what they did instead was that they used a laser cutter to cut it more precisely for most of the bigger portions, because otherwise this would be a very laborious and slow process, which is quite prone to error according to them. So like, even if not for my own room, since my own room is like a, you know, it's kind of like that, I can still use this for the guest rooms. And then when it comes to the more anime-ish stuff, there's quite a few things I have here as well. Most of it obviously is gonna be family friendly, since that's the only kind of stuff I can put here without getting disappeared into the shadow realm. So you're just gonna have to bear with that. But well, one of it I got was this entire set of doujins, which the interesting thing about it, I guess, was the fact that most of them had a very weird title instead. So like this one is just like Gainen, which is like philosophy or ideals. Like this one's a lot thinner and it just says like our side, which is also very cryptic. You might think that it's gonna be like some Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei level of like social commentary and dark comedy, but no, it's actually just you just have a bunny with a chainsaw ear here. I have no idea what's going on. It's very surrealist. It reminds me a little more of Nichijou, although I don't think it gets to that level, but morals, shikaku, which, since it's written in hiragana, it's kind of hard to tell what it's meant to mean. It gives me like Ningen Shikaku vibes, which is the book which was very depressing. We don't need to go into that book now. You can go and read the Junji Ito manga if you're very interested in that one. But this shikaku on its own could mean a lot of things. It could mean just like square as well. It could mean a blind spot. It depends on what the kanji is. It's very hard to tell from just this, but dororo. Like, the crypticness of all of the titles is something that's very bizarre. And it fits quite well with the bizarreness of the doujin as well. Like, you really do have fourth wall breaking stuff like this as well. This might be one that some of you might already be more acquainted with, considering the fact that it actually got quite some level of popularity in Japan. The Mitame Jiraike Osana Najimi, which Jiraike is just this style of clothing which is meant to be like the opposite of what is considered the Ryo-Sangata, which is basically this but with more plain-ish normal colors like white and brown and all that, whereas Jiraike is meant to be more popish and look a bit more intentionally sickly. It's a separate sort of style in Japan, which is meant to be like your equivalent of the goths in America, I suppose, where it's something that's meant to stand out and be very offish from what is considered mainstream at the time. It has a bit more gloomy colors as well, typically using more blacks like this, more pinks as well and stuff like this. I really just like their art style a lot, and if you have seen their Twitter profile, I guess I can just put it up as well, like somewhere. You can just go there and give it a look as well. I believe most of the art is up on their Twitter. This is just more for the nuclear apocalypse and to just support the artist more as well. Random 4 Koma Doujin as well by a different person, also another more comedy slice of life thing. It kind of reminded me of Hakase from Nichijou, which, considering how much of a meme lord she was, I thought this would be another funny want to have a look at. You can think of it as something like Dexter's Laboratory for all you boomers out there, except that instead of a dude, you kind of have this like anime waifu little girl instead of him. Then for something a little more recent, there's also this. Some of you might have already recognized this as well. It's got the class no Inkia Jousama no Shitsuji ni narimashita. Inkia is a little bit of a hard thing to explain as well. It's kind of like your more dark character, not in like your Batman relive in society sort of way, but in the more of like the quiet, shy person sort of way. The kind that, I guess introverted might be the right word, since they don't really use that word in Japan. And it's about you becoming her butler. There was like a couple of images that the guy posted on Twitter, kind of like this, where it's not really a manga panel, but it's a single image with the speech bubbles and all that in, and he just did quite a few of this over the past few months or so at this point at least. And well, hey, cute waifu. That's enough to make my brain switch off to buy stuff at times. You might say that there might be an issue there, and I would agree with you. I have no comeback for that. You might be right, but I mean, what else am I supposed to spend my money on? Alcohol? Cigarettes? Nah, man. Better investment. Then last but not least, this one is kind of hard to explain because like what I got was a literal piece of paper which you purchase from the circle, which gives you a, I'm not going to show the URL on the back since I'm guessing this is meant to be like the modern day equivalent of a CD without the need for a CD. So this is a mecha girl creator. So the setting for this thing is that it takes place like 50 years from now, where people have somehow managed to make mecha waifus, and so this software is essentially something that you use to create waifus that you can look at, I mean, enjoy, not in the horny sense, you kumas. I mean, to put it all very simply, you can think of it as like something like Megami Device, which is the mecha waifu gunpla-ish thing, except that now you can do that on your PC without the need for clippers and sticking stuff on that might fall off eventually and parts breaking that you need to replace. Instead, it's all a downloadable software that you have a download code for, and you just redeem it and use it to make waifus. Here's one that I tried to make after the entire time I was struggling with it. I don't know if this is good or not. Hopefully it's not a complete embarrassment. Maybe they are actually professional waifu mecha makers out there. We're gonna look at this and be like, you scrub, you honestly think that's good? I would spit on you if you were actually around me. Hopefully they are more friendly than that, but the idea itself was quite unique. I believe they have multiple DLC packs as well, because apparently this is a series that's going on for quite a while. But the concept was interesting, and so I bought it just to see what it's like. And a little weird in the sense that you get like skeletal frame robots as well, which kind of implies that they're all like completely cyborgs or something, but that's besides the point. But as you can see, you can kind of find quite a lot of stuff there at the event. Obviously, I can't show the not safe for work stuff. I mean, if there are people who are actually interested in what I buy in terms of that kind of stuff, maybe one day we can set up a way for me to show that as well. But I can't do that here for obvious reasons, so this is all y'all get. As you can see, there's a very big variety in the types of stuff you can get. And it's because of this huge variety of stuff that I find this event to be quite interesting. Quite frankly, if you want a good digest of what Comitia is like, but you don't like the huge queues that you see in the videos for that place and the whole toxic queue culture that we can talk about in a future video, then this event might be actually a good way for you to enjoy all of that minus the stress. And considering the fact that it happens during Golden Week, you could essentially come down for other stuff and other events like Rei Taisai as well, Comic One, so on and so forth, or just travel around the country and stop by for this. So I do find it quite worthwhile to drop by and give this event a look-see if you happen to be in Japan at the time. But yeah, that's all from me for today's video. It ended up being a little longer than expected. Initially, I was thinking of doing a combined video of both this and Comic One, but seeing how long this video probably ended up, I decided to split the two. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video though. I'm not sure how much this style of video actually is interesting to people outside of Japan. Hopefully it is, and that you guys can see and know more about like the overall doujin culture in general and how varied and interesting some of the goods within it can be. But yeah, that's all from me for today. Hope you guys have a good time until we meet again. So until then, take care and bye-bye.